Let's talk a little bit about some of the distortions around our understanding of happiness. And you talk about this in the book, and I really appreciated it because I was like, oh yeah, those are all, I think I used to think of all of those things as very important. You write in the book, the world has told us that happiness comes from being perfect or being close to perfect, making more money and then more money and then more money after that, acquiring more and more stuff, conforming to a prescribed path, working harder and harder and harder, never resting, never slowing down. Every woman listening is like, oh God, I totally, yes, there I am. Gaining fame, popularity and acclaim, competing against others, etc. So you talk about like this sort of old guard or this old happy versus new happy in the book. And I thought we might explore the building blocks of the old happy just to illustrate to our listeners what it is that we're talking about. And then we can compare that with your new proposed new happy paradigm. So let's talk a little bit about that.
That's great. I think the first thing I always want to say to people is if you're not happy, it's not your fault. It's the fault of all of these messages that you have grown up receiving. And this old happy that you just described so beautifully, I argue that it comes from these societal forces that are so much bigger than we are, which are individualism, which is essentially the belief that you're separate from others, capitalism, which is about incentivizing more and more and consumption and disconnection from our world, and then domination, which is all about believing that some people are better than others and creating institutions and systems that enforce that. And so these three forces, which I know are big and seem like they might be disconnected from your daily life, they, in fact, from the time that you are born, they become a part of who you are through the societal conditioning that you're subjected to. So for example, in an individualistic culture, when a baby is born, the first success in a baby's life is how quickly they can be independent from their mothers or from their families, how they can sleep by themselves, or how long they can go without needing support. And that's very different to collectivist cultures where those milestones are not celebrated in the same way. So this is really starting from the very time that you are born in terms of this conditioning that you're subjected to. And over time, what happens is you end up believing these three core lies that I've identified are the source of our unhappiness. And the first one is that you're not good enough. No matter what you do, you will never, ever be good enough. The second is that you have to achieve all of these external outcomes that are set by society. And the third is that you have to do everything by yourself. You can never lean on anybody. You can never ask for help. You have to struggle through life all alone.
Like every woman's like, aren't I supposed to do that? Aren't I supposed to push my baby out and then, be back to my size, whatever it was, pre-baby body size, 2 weeks later, and I can push the pram in heels and, full
while I'm
makeup.
Like doing my executive job.
Yeah, exactly. Taking a Zoom call in my heels, pushing exactly. Right. And doing it all by myself. No nanny, no mom around to help, no grandmothers, no aunts, no one. You're just doing it everything.
Yeah.
God, it's such a pervasive lie. But when you break it down like that, what you just said really resonated with me, where we celebrate our baby's milestones by how quickly they can be autonomous and, self-sufficient. And that's, how quickly they can sleep on their own. And I've always just naturally very much resisted that because I too enjoy sleeping or, sleeping with my children. Like I love sleep. I breastfed them for a long time and all that, but I also just loved snuggling with them. And I hated the narrative that was sort of coming from the parents and the in-laws. Like, they gotta sleep by themselves.
Separate them, right?
Separate them. Or like the sleep training where it's like you let them cry it out. And it's like, I mean, no, sometimes you got to do it. I'm like, no judgment, but that for me, the way that I wanted to mother, it always felt really against the grain at my own cells to do that to my kids.
Interesting. It's so fascinating because if we think about that and we think about, like, I just want to call out that, of course, this is then further enabled by the systems that you're a part of. Because if you're a mom who has to get back to work within 2 months.
6 weeks,
because you have no maternity leave, which is obviously not something that's available here, then what choice do you have but to try and make your baby as independent as possible? It's these layers of not just the messages we receive, but then the ways that they're enforced by our culture and our policies and our society that make it feel impossible in some ways to fight against,
Yeah. I pulled out a quote. I really love this quote, and I just wanted to read it in our conversation and have you comment on it. This was under individualism. You said, This is a quote from someone else. Paradise is here. Paradise is right in front of us. In capitalism, what is engineered is engineered longing, and desire in us for what can be in the future. It's always about the next product, the next big thing. But what if we were actually content with our lives? What if we actually knew that this was paradise? We would be very hard to control.
Ooh. I always get goosebumps.
That was under capitalism. Like, how crazy is that? If it's like, you actually don't need anything. Everything is all here right now.
Yeah. And yet we are out there being fed these messages about everything that we need to buy, everything that we have to continually consume in order to keep up, to participate, to be seen as valuable. And that's where it ties in with the domination stuff as well, because if some people are better than other people, then how do you demonstrate better? It's through what you achieve, what you buy, the way that you look, all of these things that we are sold as a pathway to happiness. And unfortunately, they don't work. They don't provide us with what we're looking for.
Yeah. And I think especially with this capitalism piece, it's like you can climb the ladder and you can get to the top. And then, oh, guess what? Surprise, there's another building at the you've climbed to the top of this building, but now there's another one. And this one, how sweet would it be? And then, it's like you're serenaded into like, how great would it be to just climb this one, just this last one?
A little bit harder.
It's like the personal trainer who's like, you have 5 more. And then you do 5 more and they're like, just kidding. You have 3 more to do,
Oh my God. That's the most amazing analogy. Capitalism as the annoying personal trainer who convinces you to do a little bit more. Exactly. I am obsessed with that.